Welcome to the show. I am MMA insider and Herb Dean's dog sitter, Joey Venti, and you're listening to the MMA History Podcast, the only podcast dedicated 100% to the preservation of mixed martial arts history. Interviews and stories about the early days of MMA direct from the men who lived it. Hundreds of interviews, thousands of hours of research, all conducted by the most obsessed mind in the business, the MMA detective Mike Davis. Join us as we document the history of the sport we all love. Welcome back to the MMA History Podcast. I'm Joey Venti. I'm here with the MMA detective Mike Davis. And today we dive back into one of the wildest stories ever told. This is part 2 of our Rafiel Torre roundtables. We stacked the panel with some true pioneers, the godfather of early MMA journalism and creator of Sherdog.com, Jeff Sherwood, the filmmaker behind Life in the Cage and Fighting in Plain Sight, Doty, and the man who stood just inches away when the knee bar heard around the world defied physics, logic, OG referee and my first coach, Larry Landless. Guys, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Thanks
for having me.
Ed Doty's going to be joining us a little later. In theory, I hope so. Anyway, he did a phenomenal movie. So essentially, we're not trying to kill the Rafiel Torre thing because we put out a lot of content about it. But here, we interviewed him while he was in jail. And then we had a fighter perspective with Gerald Strebendt, with Chris Brennan and Eddie Millis. But then there's like the other component of the press side. So when you talk about the press side or even the administrative side, we got Ed Doty, documentarian. We got Jeff Sherwood, a guy that belongs in the UFC Hall of Fame, obviously. And Larry Landless, who refereed the match itself. So this is just kind of like a different look. Like we had him where we just let him speak. We kind of had the fighters where they were like, no, he was a great guy, never did us wrong, full of shit, but very good to us. And now this right here is kind of the administrative side of things. So there's many different facets to the Torre story, and we couldn't pull in better people than the panel that we have. Jeff Sherwood, why don't we give just can you just give a little bit of background about yourself so people, I mean, obviously if you're listening to this, everybody knows who you are, but like you're starting MMA.
Geez. Well, I mean, it's pretty well documented that, so I used to work for McDonnell Douglas, who McDonnell Douglas was bought out by Boeing. And that was my first exposure to computers. And they would give us a stack of work and they would say, okay, this is your work for the week, get it done. We would typically get that work done by like Wednesday. And then they would just say, well, we don't really care what you do. Just look busy. So I was working with this guy that was way smarter than me with computers. And he came to work one day and he said, let's build a website. And I was like, I barely know how to turn my computer on. Like that was the first computer that I had been exposed to. And he's like, well, I don't know how to build a website either. We'll figure it out. So every day, once we finished our work, we started building websites. And we figured out what we were going to build websites about. I loved UFC, and there wasn't a whole lot of stuff on the internet. So I decided I'm going to build a website about the UFC. And he built a website about Brian Setzer. If you're not familiar with Brian Setzer.
Brian Setzer Orchestra.
The orchestra.
Right.
Yeah.
Stray Cats.
Stray Cats, yeah.
So he built one about Brian Setzer, and I started building one about the UFC, and it was horrible. And if you go back and look at the Wayback Machine, you'll see how horrible it was. And I write like a third grader, and I was the only one working on the site, and I was the only one writing articles and doing all this stuff. And it kept getting bigger and bigger, and his site kept getting bigger and bigger, and his site for Brian Setzer was actually way bigger than mine. He became friends with Brian Setzer and actually sold his website to Brian Setzer for $5,000 and lifetime VIP tickets to any time Brian Setzer came to town to this day.
Nice.
So when he did that, he thought he made it. He's like, man, my website's way better than yours. It kicked your ass and blah, blah, blah. Needless to say, I had the last laugh at the end, and we still laugh about it because I still talk to him every once in a while. But Yeah, that's basically how it started. So I basically built Sherdog on, I don't think they could do anything about it now, but on Boeing's dollar.
Oh, wow.
Was it your job? Was it your decision to make it also a database for fight results, or did that come later?
No, that came later when, so I was struggling through it, and as things progressed and I knew I had to get better and make the website better, um, I used to get emails daily. Hey, I want to help you. I want to work with you. I got this email from a guy and he said, hey, I like to make these cool videos of fighters with music behind them. Um, I made one. Do you want to check it out? And I was horrible at getting back to emails and everything. And I think I waited like 6 months before I even responded to him. And I was like, yeah, shoot it over. He sent me this video that was so cool. And I don't even remember what the first one was. It might have been Hoist Gracie or something. And I was like, dang. He's like, you want to put it on the website? I was like, hell yeah. I put it on the website. It became huge. And he's like, well, I can make a bunch of them. So he started making these videos and then just started helping me. So he was a student at Mississippi State University, and he was actually getting his doctor's degree in polymer science. So he's actually a real life rocket scientist now. He works for NASA.
Someone that actually graduated college. Good.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, with the doctorate degree at the age of 26.
Wow. All right.
So
Let me introduce the rest of the panel. Ed Doty, thank you for joining us.
No, thank you guys. Apologies for being late there.
No, it's okay. So your documentary, we're just doing an introduction to the audience. Let's talk about your early backgrounds. I mean, obviously you were kind of everywhere with your video camera back in the day. So a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I think the relevant parts were I started training martial arts in 1993 in more of like traditional styles. Fun little story about that was I think I'd bought I'd started doing like tournament karate in like the early 90s. And I had bought an issue of Black Belt magazine, and it was the April 93 issue of Black Belt, and there was an ad in there that said tournament to determine world's greatest fighter. And I thought it was just like any other karate tournament. So I'm like, sure, I'll give it a call. And I called, and it turned out to be Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in Redondo. It was Jorge Gracie who picked up the phone. I would later find out. And he said, Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. I'm like, yeah, do you guys have like an under 18 division? He's like, no. And so, but that was like sort of like me coming into martial arts right at the time of the first UFC. And then all throughout high school I trained. I fought in this thing called the Shidokan back in like 1996.
Wait. In Chicago.
Yeah, in Chicago. Yeah. I've got knocked out in the first round by Pat White.
Dude, wait.
Yeah.
Pat White was a stock trader.
Yes, commodities trader, yeah.
A commodities trader that was a bad boy out of
Yes,
Chicago.
he was. Yes, he was.
In fact, Joey, in all honesty, I think Pat White may have been excluded from participating in the UFC. Pat White would have wrecked a lot of people.
Yeah, really. He definitely, I mean, and he had a decent ground game too. Like people didn't know that about him, but like he had an insane clinch work. He trained with a lot of guys from Thailand. But yeah, Pat was a good dude. After he knocked me out, he got me into a bar when I was 18, so that was cool.
Yeah, Matty Hornstein also fought in a tournament.
Modi was in the same year as me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jeez, no notes on that, by the way. Yeah. So, Larry Landless, what about yourself?
Oh, hey, Larry. What's up?
Hey. What's up, Ed? How you doing?
Good, man.
Long time.
Long time.
Long time. Well, I have a wrestling background, of course. I got into judo and started to cross-train into other things as I got bored throughout the years. And then in 1993, we watched the UFC, and everyone's like, hey, remember you used to do chokes and stuff like that? And like in judo, we'd go to you get a takedown and you pawn or wazari or something, and the matches kind of ended. Well, we would continue, and that's what led us to Sambo and other things. And then I opened up a gym over in Rosemead, a boys club, and then people started coming through the doors. and that's when I met Herb Dean. That's when I met Charlie Valencia. Well, Charlie was one of my wrestlers in high school, actually. He wrestled for me. But everybody else, Joey showed up there. And we had quite a bit of people.
Okay.
The late Joe Camacho. And we had a lot of fun.
Okay. So everybody here, we can all agree, are from the OG old school, no holds barred days. There's no doubting anybody's credentials. You're not throwing Sherdog at me without dude, it was an incredible event that I think honestly at the time, probably a little bit more palatable than the UFC at that time. It was just, there was a lot of partying involved, and Sherdog kind of, couple Chicago police officers were some of the backers behind it, and the I don't know, I think they missed the window of opportunity. So either way, everybody's an OG here, and we're here to talk about Torre on the administrative side. So how about when you guys first either met him, heard of him, or encountered him? Ed, let's start with yourself.
Yeah, so my film Life in the Cage began as a college project. So this was 1999. I was in my third year of film school, and that semester's project was a 10-minute or shorter documentary. So I'm like, you know what? I had been to a Neutral Ground show at the Hollywood Athletic Club that June, and Larry, I think you were there too. Yeah, you refed it because that was the one where a riot almost broke out because somebody threw a bottle at Thiago de Freitas' head. And it got sketchy there for a second. So on my way out of there, I'm like, man, I wish I would have had my camera with me. So that fall, I decided to do. I found out there was a Neutral Grounds / IFA co-promoted event at the Barona Indian Reservation, basically in inland San Diego. So I drive down with my camera and a friend of mine just be, crew. And Ken Shamrock was supposed to do a seminar that day, but Ken got stomach flu or whatever. So Vernon White was there, and I had heard of Toby Amata just through the grapevine, just through the jiu-jitsu community, because I was already training at Jean-Jacques Machado's at the time. And Toby was being cornered by Rafiel. And so Rafiel had a camo winter jacket on. I'm former Army. And so we just started chatting, and he was talking about coaching Toby there and how he had a small gym at 29 Palms, and I'm like, cool. And we got along. And I think Toby lost that night, if I want to say. I could be wrong. Check Sherdog.com for the fight record.
The main event was
Jeremy Horn.
Jeremy Horn and John Marsh. I repped that.
Yeah, and Jeremy Horn won that one. But John Marsh put up a good fight. I remember that one too. There's a lot of good fights that night. It was outdoors. It was an outdoor event. It got really cold in the evening.
Baseball diamond.
Yeah, I was on a baseball diamond. Bob Shamrock was there. I met Bob Shamrock that night. Met a lot of people that night. So I met him, and it was cool. And then I wouldn't see him again until the following February at the second King of the Cage show. And that was when I saw him in the journalist capacity. And he and I were at that event all day long, and so we ended up just hanging out the entire time and just talking, and just he was interviewing, I was interviewing. We kind of drafted off of each other's interviews, and that was kind of where that was sort of where I first kind of hit it off with him, if you would say that.
Okay, Jeff Sherwood.
I believe that's the first time I met Rafiel as well, and I do remember those fights, and I do remember it was so damn cold. I was
ridiculous.
Freezing.
Yeah, ridiculous.
There was a tap out booth there, and they sold out of every sweatshirt. It was perfect for them. Every jacket, sweatshirt, and everything that they had. But yeah, that was when the first time I met Rafiel. Obviously, I had no idea who he was, but I'm sure he had no idea who I was. We chatted a little bit. Nothing big, just basic. And the main time that I spent with Rafiel or seeing Rafiel was later at the King of the Cages as well.
Larry Landless, your first time encountering him.
I started thinking back, and it was King of the Cage. I remember one of the rules meetings, he was like telling me, "Hey, I'm gonna, I'd like to interview you and videotape you, whatever." And so as we did the meeting, he was kind of all over that, and he always praised me. He always, I never had a real issue with them, but we'll talk about the other stuff later. But yeah, he was one of the first King of the Cages, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
I think we were still indoors. We were indoors at the time.
Yeah.
Did he set off any flags on anybody in regards to like his personality?
Not the first time. Definitely not like the first time. I mean, everybody knew, and like he knew enough to where you could have a conversation and not too many red flags would pop up. Also, like if you're saying like your father is from Brazil, I remember that came up very early in the conversations. And like because like also you have to remember guys like Kid Peligro were like floating around as well. And so he seemed like he knew enough to where you wouldn't like doubt him immediately.
He could fake the funk. Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
and I think
Yeah.
everybody has like their own little moment, I think, where he would say something that would raise a red flag in isolation, and then just over time it would just sort of like progressively build up and build up. And I talk about in my films like when those moments were for me. I think it's different for everybody. I think for everybody has like their own version of that story.
Jeff.
He didn't really raise any red flags to me. He was super nice, and I mean, I would just chat with him. We didn't really get into anything. It's kind of funny though, to me, where I was coming from. Um, I never really saw. I know he was media or whatever, but I don't think of him that way. I don't ever really remember seeing him being big time media. He would interview some fighters backstage and stuff like that. But I don't know. Maybe I was just not paying attention, which kind of is my style. Like I do my own thing and I'm not really worried about anybody else or what anybody else is doing. So, it's just like, hey, every time I saw him, it was just like casual talk until later on when we started going to prides and he started popping up at prides.
Larry, when did you have any red flags out of your end with him?
Well, as time went on, I heard the interview with Chris Brennan when he said that he did that little grappling match at his tournament. I was at that tournament, and when he went in the cage, it was obvious that it was a kind of a, because I'm watching, Chris Brennan's going to work. I'm watching what he's got. I'm always fascinated by Chris and what he does. And I'm outside of his cage, and Rafael kept looking over at me, making sure I was watching him. And it was pretty obvious Chris could have finished him off anytime he wanted to, but he kind of dragged that all out, like Chris was saying in the interview. I had that. Another time he told me that, and I don't know how the subject of Mark Hall came up, but he had told me that he was hoping Terry would get him a fight with Mark Hall because he'd beat him up. And I don't want to really say what he said because Mark's a pretty good guy, but Mark's a ballsy dude, man. And
Mark's legit.
If that would have happened, Mark is legit. I mean,
yeah,
he will fight, and I don't think it would have went very well for Rafael. But he made a comment, and I was like, whoa, where'd that come from?
I may have an idea.
It was at Calusa.
Yeah.
We were just kind of walking around the hotel, and he was in leather pants, and like he's starting to dress the part,
Yeah.
leather pants and the chains. He started to look different as time went on, kind of getting a little more Hollywood.
Yeah.
But when he said that, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, he drew a line in the sand. I think we got Mark Hall in the next 3 weeks too. It took me 3 years to track him down, but I had a conversation with him. Ed, you had mentioned.
Yeah, there was something I was because I may have an idea of like where that came from. This is speculation on my part, but if you remember that second King of the Cage event in February of 2000, Ken Shamrock and Mark Hall got into a fight backstage.
Yeah,
in the bathroom or something. Yeah,
no, it was a hallway, and there was like blood in the carpet. Like it was Ken. I wasn't witness it, but you were there. Rafael was there. A few other people were there, and Ken like drilled him in the nose, and like it like detonated Mark's nose. And there was a lot of blood everywhere. And I remember Mark being at that Neutral Ground show too, because that was the first time I had met him. I was just gonna say about Rafael is like, I think a big part of the reason why he kind of lasted for as long as he did in terms of his credibility was that he was a really nice guy, to Jeff's point. Like he was a really nice guy, and he was like his whole thing is like he was good enough to participate, but he never claimed to be an expert. Like I saw you guys had posted the clip of his Abu Dhabi match with Bo Hirschberger. We knew he lost to Bo Hirschberger, but none of us had ever seen the footage because like that footage was not easily, there was no like, it was not easily
No
disseminated.
internet.
No
Yeah.
internet. So like you hear he was in the first Abu Dhabi and he lost to Bo Hirschberger in the first round. There's no shame in that. Like
No.
Bo was a beast back then. So you hear that and just being in that space gives you credibility. It gives you like, especially in those early days, just taking part in all these different things lent itself to a level of credibility. In terms of like his interview style, especially at that era, he was still getting a feel for it. He was not a journalist.
No.
Jeff and a few others were like the premier photojournalists of that era. So like
Yeah.
Jeff had a really good way of lensing everything, and it was like a definite like there was a Sherdog look, yeah. But there was no like definitive voice. Josh Gross would kind of get there first, in my opinion. Josh and a couple other folks, but in terms of like a definitive voice of the interview style, there's Kid Peligro and kind of Rafael and like a couple other guys, and that was really about it. So it was an open field for him to like establish himself. And I think more than anything, what came across in Raphael's writing, and just to be clear, his writing was not good. But like what came across in his writing was a legitimate enthusiasm and just like a happy to be there attitude. And I think that covered for a lot of like what he lacked like in credibility.
Well,
Jeff. Yeah. So Jeff, you kind of came up at that point in the interview because in essence, he said, yeah, I just went out there. I was just pretending to be an interview guy. And then all of a sudden I got the job, which Jeff Sherwood wanted, and it made him mad.
Yeah, it was. I did listen to his interview with you, and he did bring me up at one point and said that I did not like him later on because I wanted a job that he got. And I kind of was shaking my head, like scratching my head,
What?
like I was running the world's biggest MMA website that I owned.
Yeah.
Why would I be looking for a job that Rafael got?
Not only that, you were like one of the few distributors of MMA media in that time. You were selling my film. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like you were like you controlled the means of distribution for a lot of folks. So like I mean if anybody wanted a position in that world at that time and they could choose between you or Rafael, like it's not even close. Like what would be the more enviable position?
Yeah, it was weird and but as time went by, Raphael started to say a few more things that like because Greg Savage was part of Sherdog as well and he was always around and Greg's always has been a downer and like Raphael would come up and talk to us and say something and walk away and Greg would be like that guy's full of shit. Like Greg knew before. Maybe I didn't care enough to even figure it out. But Greg knew from the start. He's like, that guy's full of shit. When he told us a story about going into the woods and fighting 32 guys and coming out with a trophy, and Greg's like, come on. Like, and I was just like, okay. Like, you want to tell me? Okay.
Sounds legit. Yeah.
Right. What,
Okay.
who am I to doubt that? I mean, maybe it did happen. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know.
If I can interject here, just so kind of everybody at home kind of understands, he wrote a article called "Lessons in Humility."
Yeah.
And like Ed is what you had said. Is it really well written? No, it's not. But it's a Gonzo style of journalism.
Yeah.
That I've actually used several times for information for other interviews that I've done. But when you go to the Wayback Machine and you look up Rafiel Torre and you go to his home cities where he was, particularly Oregon, there was I think it was like some sort of Sentinel, some sort of regional publication where I have it. I actually have the article where he talks about this incredible thing being dropped off in the woods and fighting people, and Frank Dukes coached him through it over the phone. And Frank Dukes is quoted in the article itself as well, stating, yeah, the people they only invite you out once, so you got to go even if you're not prepared. It's super dangerous, but it's a one-time offer, and then you can go back several other times. And Rafiel's like, yeah, it was really crazy and dangerous. And yeah, I mean, it's like he roped in Frank Dukes to this imaginary story when Frank Dukes' bullshit was like really selling high-end movies at this time, which is pretty friggin' impressive if you think about it. Like, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
I got one thing to say about the Frank Dukes thing. At the end of the movie, they tried to sell it by saying he did a 75-mile-per-hour kick.
Yep.
And all this, and fastest kick. And I'm like, all the MMA matches I've ever been to, I've never seen anyone with a radar gun like at a baseball. Yeah, like trying to measure the speed of a kick or punch. Even at the UFC, even at Pride, even at the K1, I've never seen that.
Well,
and like it's just that should be a red flag right there.
What about Yama?
The world
or the pit?
Yama.
I was
gonna say just a little thing about Bloodsport. The other records he held, that it's like at the end credits of Bloodsport, like it's world's fastest punch, world's fastest kick. Punch is measured in seconds, but like kick is measured in like miles per hour. I'm like, why 2 units of measurement? Like I don't get it.
I want to add something too. So
Larry, wait, hold up. Larry, you got to pull yourself away from the phone, man. Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, you're caught. Okay. Go ahead, Jeff.
So Rafiel was buddies with Eddie Bravo.
Yeah.
Which
really good friends.
Right, which I respected Eddie.
Yeah.
Of course.
So when Eddie was tied with Rafiel,
that was the other part of it. Yeah.
Gave him the benefit of the doubt, because I was like, Eddie's not going to let this guy be a fraud. Like, they're good friends. Eddie would know. And I would talk to Eddie all the time. And so I think having Eddie in his corner at the time kind of covered and wiped away some of the benefit of the doubt. Like, you're thinking like, well, maybe he is legit. Maybe he's not. Maybe he did go fight in the fucking woods. I don't know. I don't know if I'm allowed to cuss. I'm sorry.
No, dude, there's no ways. Listen, we're barely monetized. We're good. Yeah, no, there's no issues here.
In defense of Eddie, I'm a 10th planet. I've known Eddie since I was 19, and I talked to Eddie about this at length, and because Eddie was the first person who told me the truth about Rafiel. And that was the thing, is that like once, like, in fairness to him, so basically Rafiel, this is to hear Eddie tell it, Rafiel had like told him a version, and this is something that Rafiel is very skilled at, is like make the lie, and then over time he would add little like elements to the lie that like tempered it
and layer it.
Well, and augmented it. And so like over time you have more context, and therefore it's like he was able to really stretch the boundary of like what was believable just over time. He didn't try to like lay it on too thick too soon. And again, coupled with like that humility and like that, or that faux humility, and sort of like that aw shucks kind of like, I'm old and these guys are, and again, lessons in humility. He was training with Sakuraba. He was rolling with like legit guys.
But that's my point, Ed.
Yeah.
Like, all right, Eddie Bravo called him out.
Yeah.
But previous to that,
yeah,
he was rolling with Hoyler. He was rolling with Sakuraba. He never got in a match with Dixon. But there's a laundry list of human beings, including Chris Brennan, that rolled with him. And Brennan, to his credit, says he's probably a low-level purple belt.
Yeah.
So like,
I think that's being generous. Like, honestly, I think that's being generous.
Brennan, to be honest with you, like, here, let me finish my. Yeah. So there's a laundry list of individuals that are incredibly credentialed that never did that, and they felt him. It's like I speak fluent Spanish. If somebody wants to, anytime I see another white person go, yeah, I speak Spanish. Okay, we're gonna exchange. 80% of the time they're full of shit, and it's like within 2 sentences I understand it. Jiu-jitsu is the same way, but none of those guys called him out.
Yeah, and to be fair, I never rolled with Rafael. So but I think
Probably
like,
intentionally on his end. Like
but
he was
yeah,
smart.
here's again the way he specifically layered the lie was he would say, "My dad's from Brazil and he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu." Cool. That was like the base level entry level line. As you talk to him more, the way the lie was like, yeah, my dad was a black belt in traditional Japanese jiu-jitsu, and he happened to be from Brazil. He's like, so I and so no, I mean, this is what he would say. And so he said like, and when I asked him like what style of jiu-jitsu, because I was a martial arts dork and I knew all the different styles. He mentioned things like Wataru jiu-jitsu, and which does have like a bit of a rudimentary ground game. So like to me, that like made sense. And and so since then I've tried to like, I've tried to, learn and get to like where the more Gracie and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu styles of Jiu-Jitsu are. But this was my background. And then he talked about being a Taekwondo black belt, which he legitimately was. And like he had that school, and so now he's trying to focus more on his jiu-jitsu part of his upbringing. So it's like when you hear all this in context, like okay, yeah, Japanese jiu-jitsu guy is
Yeah.
not going to have the ground game of a traditional Brazilian jiu-jitsu or catch wrestling guy. And so
Hmm.
it kind of like the narrative kind of made sense. It kind of like ducked and weaved with what you saw.
Larry Landless, would you say he also had an incredible ability to kind of know who to talk to? Like if you put him in a room with 30 people, he could kind of figure out who he could kind of move to his side of the table and gain an advantage on them.
Yes, he was very, you know, with me, he was very nice to me. And we kept things kind of brief in certain regards. He'd bring up history and stuff, and, we just chit chatted. He was a reporter. So I talked to him. And the only time during that one conversation in Kaluza, when he said he would knock Mark Hall and out and all that, I was like, whoa! I was obviously like thrown back by it, and then he changed the subject quickly,
Hmm.
and I think he sensed that I was not believing that part of it, because he did change it up quick, and that kind of threw me off. Yeah,
I think,
he's
go ahead, Larry. I'm sorry to cut you off.
no, it's fine. Go ahead, Jeff.
I think the sport was at a time at that time, like it was new to everybody. So you had people coming at you from all different sides with their stories, and we didn't know people's backgrounds. We didn't know what people did. So he was able to get away with a lot more because everybody was learning about everybody.
I,
It was
I,
new to
I,
everyone.
so let me kind of set the table here. And I don't think there's no one is going to disagree with this. Joey, I'm going to throw it at you. How many Americans did you meet that had maybe 2 months of jujitsu that were starting to struggle with the English language and would go, how you say, how you say, and it was just like,
Well, they would say, "My friend."
my
That was
friend,
the
yeah.
that was the gateway drug. Is my
You
friend?
were born here, like this pigeon English,
Yeah.
really?
A lot of
Uh,
that, I think, is that there was a heavy weed influence in the jujitsu world at that point.
Look at that! Look at that nodding his head.
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think you
The
could do like a whole,
thirst. They're
you
so
could do a whole,
thirsty.
you could do a whole academic paper, I think, on just like the portion of Brazilian culture that is very like ready to fight and scrap, but also ready to like hug and be very like loving and affectionate and like in a very like that it can go back and forth very, very quickly. And there's elements of surf culture and stoner culture that are get mixed along with that. And a lot of that when we were importing like fight culture here it was we were importing that significant portion of Brazilian culture into that sort of like that idea that everybody's welcome, that as long as you stay humble and you're welcome and you can learn. Like people were really generous with me, and I was just like, just because I was a Jean-Jacques Machado student, they knew that was enough. That was enough to give me legitimacy in a lot of these spaces. Once I mean Charles, same thing. I met Charles and Dan and Scrape and all those guys like at that Neutral Ground show. Every time they saw me after that, they would Charles would do that thing where he'd shout your name from across a football field and like hype you up as you were like he was promoting you, and there was a lot of that in the air. I think just anybody who was supporting the sport, I think was like we saw ourselves like on the same side of something. And Rafael was just another voice in that chorus of like someone who was supporting the sport. Like I think, again, to your point, when you go back to read a lot of those articles, he's doing his damnedest to like portray this thing in a good light.
And Jeff, like, did you ever read his Lessons in Humility?
I did. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
well, I mean, I was definitely not the one to talk about anybody's writing level because I typically wrote like a third grade level when I started as well. And but the back then there wasn't really, like Ed said, there was only, you could count the legit people that covered the sport on one hand for years. Like not just at the beginning, but for like years. And then people started to come along and bring a journalism background to the sport, and things started to get better. We would actually, and Ed brought it up as well. Josh Gross, was like one of the first reporters to like
real
actually
reporter,
really research things.
Yeah.
I mean, when
Yeah.
when Josh was the editor of Sherdog, like we would sit on stories for months because Josh would be like, no, we have to, do it the right way, and we have to investigate, and we have to talk to this person, and we have to talk to somebody from the other side and get the opinions, and it was a whole drawn out process where back in the early days, King of the Cage 1, 2, 3, you just throw something on the internet and it was like
Dude.
you just go with it.
Yeah.
And and if somebody else is doing that, cool on you. Like we're all doing it. We're all learning. I mean, when I first started to run Sherdog, I didn't even shoot pictures for like the first 2 years because I didn't know how to take pictures. And it was so long ago, like when I first started shooting pictures, we were shooting film. I would go to a small King of the Cage, neutral grounds, and I would take 20 rolls of film and maybe like 50 photos would come out. So like everyone was learning. So it like in my eyes, Raphael wasn't even like I
Out of
was just
place,
trying
yeah.
to learn how to do my own stuff.
So
I didn't care about who else was doing stuff.
Easy to slip one by the goalie at
Yeah.
this point. Yeah.
We're all learning our trade. I mean, like I owe my career to that first film that I made. But I mean, you look at Life in the Cage, that is a student film. Like the quality on it is there's some elements in it that I can look at now and be like, oh, that's kind of cool how I did that or how I positioned these two scenes together. But dude, it's rough. It's rough to look at. It's definitely rough to listen to. Part of it is because nobody had any money and I couldn't afford a sound guy. So I'm literally one man banding it the entire time. Jeff out there looking like he had been airdropped into Vietnam, like Dennis Hopper in Apocalypse Now. Like just with like I remember the vest and all the gear and all the just everything because you had to carry all that shit on you yourself. Like we were all extremely scrappy. We were all like it's like one of those things where it's like we want this thing to grow, so we better learn and develop a trade that will help this thing grow. And for Larry, it was refereeing. I mean, like one of the first like refs out there on the indie level, like trying to ref as many shows as possible. We're all like saying, "This is what we can contribute. We better get good at it. We're going to get good at it while we do it." And in that environment, you can kind of see how someone like Raphael can slip right through the cracks.
On top of that, I don't think a single one of us, Joey, I included, Ed, yourself, Jeff, obviously. I don't think there was a weekend that went by that we weren't at some sort of MMA event, whether it was a big show or a small show. I think I did like, I don't know, 12 years of like very few weekends, probably holidays where I wasn't at an MMA event. Like I felt like I missed something if I wasn't there.
Yeah, I missed my kids growing up. I mean, I was basically gone 3 weekends out of the month for 20 years.
Yeah, you're being generous. There's probably more like 4.
Right.
Yeah.
And I would, and then when I started to go to Prides and Holland and all these places, and the thing that I thought that helped Sherdog grow as well as the fighters, I went to every King of the Cage. I went to every neutral grounds. There used to be, gosh, I forget the Kaza show at a
Kaza's Cage
Mexican
Combat.
restaurant.
Kaj's
Right.
Case Combat, a very unfortunate acronym. I'll just say that. Like,
Yes.
of all the abbreviations
Yeah.
possible, why? Anyway, and I
Yeah.
think we know why.
So I would spend, times at these shows running. There was old shows where
Good
we
call,
went
Ed.
running out of the back of the building because cops were coming in the front of the building because this was illegal, and grabbing my camera equipment and running out to, going to Morongo Casino when there's a huge brawl of bikers and fighters and like just everything that was
Okay.
going on. There was so much going on. And I just want to add this, and
We gotta get back there. Yeah, we gotta get back to Torre.
Yeah.
Okay.
But when Ed said he talked about his film and how rough it was and everything, this sport didn't have anything. I remember when Ed's film came out and I watched it, I was like, this is fucking amazing. Because there was nothing like that out there. And I was like, this is great. And it's only going to get bigger and better from here. Ed's going to get better. I'm going to get better. Even Rafiel's going to get better, we thought at the time. Josh Gross is going to come around. Loretta Hunt, like all these people. So we were a team, whether, we were at different places, we were all in it for the same reason.
Yeah, and everybody knew each other, and there was like there was like almost like a weird Rolodex where you go, oh, so you know this person, what about that, and then okay, we kind of know each other. It was just, it was pretty cool.
I went to Suncoast Video and I bought Ed's movie. I stuck it in my DVD player, not realizing that the whole thing revolved around my friend Jay Martinez, who never mentioned he was in a movie. I had no idea he was in that.
Dude, Jay's like
Jay started with us.
Yeah. Jay is like the beating heart of the film. He was like, when I got into editing, I was like, this guy.
And the name of the film,
Life in the Cage.
Yeah,
Life in the Cage back in the day. So like, and he was like, he had the most revealing stuff to say, like just personally revealing of like in terms of just like being able to bare his soul and kind of, and like honestly, that talking to him made me a better interviewer, because like I knew that was when I first learned to just shut up and just let them go. Don't fill the spaces with questions, just let them kind of talk. They'll give you what they got in those moments. And it was just, and I love Jay to death. If you were in contact with him, please wish him nothing but the best from me.
Will do.
So, amazing. Yeah.
So I got a question for you guys. I got a question for all you guys.
Yeah.
And Joel, you can answer it. Okay. Jay fought one very famous MMA fighter. Went on his MMA fighter's first fight.
I know the answer.
An underground show.
I know the answer.
And it was his absolute first fight. And Jay fought him. Does anybody know who that famous fighter turned out to be?
I feel like I know this, and it's a big name, and I feel like I know this and I've forgotten.
Huge name.
Go ahead.
I've got the only video on it, by the way.
It's Tito Ortiz. He fought Tito Ortiz at Larry's.
Tito Ortiz, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Let's try to circle back now. So Torre, essentially, he's jet setting. He's being paid by the Sheik. He's everywhere. He's probably making about 150 grand a year plus expenses. I had talked to one of the people that was in charge of updating Miguel Arate, updating ad combat, and Miguel was making $5 grand a month, and he was like, that's nothing compared to what they give Torre. So he was everywhere. He was
maybe
everywhere.
I did want that job.
Yeah. Did any of you guys ever see his instructionals?
No, I would pay money to see that now.
I wish they were on VHS. Gerald Strebendt is a guy that tends to collect everything and hold on to it.
I did film his demonstration stuff ahead of UFC or King of the Cage, the one that he fought in. So
the infamous knee bar.
I filmed that. That was, for me personally, that was when my red flag went off. That was my moment where I'm like,
I thought you were going to say the height of your film career.
No, God, no. No. Thankfully, no. No. But like, no, but in terms of like, I filmed. It was at Chris Brennan's school. Like he had been training at Next Gen in the Inland Empire, and I went out there and filmed him. So I filmed that stuff. But I don't think that's an instructional series. I hope not. Good Lord.
Let me give a little pushback against Chris Brennan, who I've got a world of respect for. So Chris, he had mentioned he's a low-level purple. Ed, you had said, you took some umbrage to that. And Chris at the time wasn't backed by the Brazilians. And I would say he was constantly under attack by them. Like Chris Brennan really didn't have a lot of friends other than the people that like knew him and believed in Chris Brennan. But on the other side, there was high-end jiu-jitsu guys that would point their students at him, and a barrage of shit was thrown at Chris while he was kind of building what is now an empire. So Rafiel was always good to Chris, and Rafiel never sold Chris out. Like it would have been real easy, like that Mark Hall, that slight to Mark Hall, where he can go, wait, these guys are dumping on Mark Hall. Ken just beat him up. Let me throw my 2 cents in. Yeah. He never did that with Brennan. So I think Chris is like, Chris was emotional, called me up after he heard the interview. And I mean, it was really nice to receive that phone call and know it actually touched somebody, something that we recorded. But Brennan he did not have an easy start. Can we agree on that?
I would agree. I mean, yeah, Chris, I think was a character with a lot of people who had a lot of strong opinions about him, both good and bad. And I think in his youth, I think he'd be the first person to say that he probably invited some of that on himself.
Yeah.
But I also think, I mean, I think going back to just getting his black belt from De Leal and then and just like his whole, just how he conducted business, I think like he was sort of maybe unfairly treated by some in the Brazilian community for sure. And so everything you're saying makes narrative sense to me. Like everything you're saying.
So I think Chris has a little soft spot for him, but I mean, Jeff, nobody was bad mouthing him. Like you had mentioned, he was always kind of cheerleading. So he didn't have kind of like that negative context going with them.
Yeah, looking at the way that the situation ended up and where Rafiel is now, when you look back at the situation, and then me later in life being in the prison system, I wasn't a prisoner, but I was around a lot of prisoners. He had, like, you could go to a prison and talk to prisoners, and Rafiel had the same skills they have.
Dude, you're right. You're 100% accurate.
Even back then.
Yeah.
And I'm sure he's better with them now since he's been spending plenty of time there. But looking back at the whole situation, like I would remember talking to, prisoners, and they had that same skill set that Rafiel used on us, that to not so much manipulate us, but to where we just believed him. Like it was just like
he moved you where he wanted you. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a criminal mindset. Like there's a lot of different personalities on the police department, but the ones that you really want are the cops with a criminal mindset that make good choices.
Right.
The benevolent dictator.
Yeah. And he's got that mentality, except he didn't make good choices.
Right.
Yeah. Larry, let's talk about the fight.
Let's do it.
Do you think it was legit, Larry?
I mean, Larry, come on, tell us.
No.
How concerned were you for the knee of his opponent?
Well, as you all recall, it was wet and wild. Everybody was slipping and sliding and ice skating on that thing. Even I was. I was wearing a raincoat. It was a wet and wild. So when Rafiel came out and threw the first kick, he fell to the ground. I don't know if you recall the fight, but Joe jumped on top of him. And then there was like some communication going on, which kind of I was like, it wasn't shit talking. There was communication going on. I don't know what was being said, but I think at some point I even yelled out, go, let's fight or something. Let's go, guys. I think what happened was they had to go off script after that first kick, because Rafiel slipped unexpectedly. So the script was thrown out the window at that point, but they had to somehow get to that knee bar. So how the whole thing played out, it didn't quite feel right. And I expressed it to Herb, who was my partner at the time there at the King of the Cage. I kind of expressed that. And
like right away,
just kind of like,
so right off the bat, you said you talked to Herb Dean and you say, I don't think that was real.
No, I think I kind of just talked to him later after, we were kind of busy with other things, I mean, Matsui and Guy Metzger was coming up, and, that was supposed to be a big fight for King of the Cage. But we were I was kind of dismissive at the moment, but later I said to Herb, like, I don't know, man. I think that fight was kind of fixed. Or something to that effect.
Have you guys watched the fight recently?
I did, actually.
No.
Okay.
I did.
Okay. It's mandatory that you watch it from the beginning. Never mind the fight. Forget the fight. Bruce Buffer's lathering of Rafael Torre's balls.
God. It's so ridiculous.
Balls,
so ridiculous.
like he was.
You've read his articles.
Yep.
You've seen him online.
Coming out of retirement, the greatest. Like, I put that introduction from Bruce Buffer up against anything he's ever done for any. Like, dude, if you were to do like a top 10 Bruce Buffer introductions, that's in there.
Yeah,
dude, we're doing a YouTube video on that, Joey.
Yeah, no,
we're doing a YouTube video on that.
It's definitely like, and I'm glad Larry brought this up. But had there been no rain, that would have been one of the greatest cards King of the Cage ever put on, because that was like right in the middle of their sort of like agreement with Pride. They had Alexander Otsuka. Or no, I'm sorry, they had Matsui. But I mean, Guy Metzger fought. Like they had a lot of big name guys there. Ken was cornering like 3 guys there. Freshly divorced Ken with his mutton chops. There was a lot of. It was a big moment, and then it rained, and they decided to put a square, not domed tarp above the cage, and it was porous, so it basically created like not just rain, but it would like pool the rain to like these really fat like water droplets.
It was kind of like if you like go to like a Sybaris and they've got like
it's
like the water pool room where you make love to your woman, except there's a cage there.
More or less. And like they had people wiping it up, but people forget that particular cage bottom, it wasn't like tatami mat. It was like it had like a polyvinyl like sheen on top of it, so it was not absorbing. Yeah, it was not absorbing.
It was a wrestling mat.
Yeah, it was a wrestling mat. So it was like it had all that on there.
It was cut in 2 pieces.
Yeah. My big recollection of the day, obviously, aside from the intro and aside from Joe, I interviewed Joe and I like talked to his entourage. I don't think any of them were under any like they believed it was 100% true. Like in real, like they were treating this thing like it was real. Joe was really angry for exactly 3 minutes after the fight, and then after that, he was very, very happy for the rest of the day, which was like one of the things that kind of I thought was interesting, because like it was so heated going into the fight, and he was so hot immediately after. And I get that there's like an adrenaline dump and all this other stuff, but he looked positively like joyful like the rest of the day, which I thought was always like very weird. And then I mean the thing that really stood out to me were the knees to the body. Like how a knee to the body is supposed to go, and it's a bigger guy, different body frame, but like I mean he's hitting with like the top of the thigh against like the meatiest part of him, and it's like that's not hurting anything, like nothing's happening here. And to me that was like the big moment where I'm like, what even is this? And then the knee bar happened, and then
Hey, Jeff Sherwood, do you remember who was in the corner of Rafiel Torre?
I don't. to be honest with you.
Joey?
Mark Kerr and Rico Rodriguez.
So
interesting.
Like how you had said, he's layers and he layers and you had mentioned, well, how could it be fake? He had Mark Kerr and Rico Rodriguez in his corner.
Right.
And Rico was in the main event. So Rico came back later to fight, but he took the time to be cage side for that one.
Yeah. And Rafael was a paid sponsored athlete from Tap Out. Like, I mean, that was
okay.
Dan talked about that too. Just like we wanted to sponsor him. You know, that was their POV, you know.
He was that popular of a guy, at least in the California scene. Jeff, just like you've been around, obviously. If you just had to guess, what kind of payday does his opponent get from Rafiel to do this? Like, what? There has to be a catch there. The money certainly wasn't there,
right? And that was, you know, when you go back and look at it, like right after the fight, me and Greg Savage talked about it, King's cage side, and at that time, I was definitely not that I'm a jiu-jitsu expert now, but I've seen plenty of people using jiu-jitsu in tournaments in the cage and everything. And even I knew at the time, I was just like, something a little fishy. Like, I don't know. We talked about it and we both came to the conclusion in about 25 seconds that it was all bullshit. And yeah, what does he pay Joe? Like,
Larry, what do you think? Larry, what do you think? What's Joe get?
Man, I don't know. I don't know how he would get paid. I mean,
training.
I know, like,
you know,
he was getting money from
training, ticket sales. I mean, I don't see Tap Out paying more than like maybe $1,000.
I was going to say probably between $1 and $2,000 from Tap Out, and King of the Cage did work on a ticket sale model as well. Like,
they didn't pay shit.
I mean, listen, Mike Bork fought on several cards because he brought a lot of people. He moved tickets. I mean, Terry told me as much. Mike moved tickets. He got to fight. It was kind of that simple. And so like, I think
the Wild Man Denny. So did Joe.
Yeah. So like, it's one of those things where I do remember this. I was with Rafiel when he got his check. I never saw the amount that was on the check, but I do distinctly remember him getting the envelope. I think it was from Terry. It was from Terry. It could have been Bud, but I think it was Terry. But he got the check. He opened it up. He looked at it, and you know, like the look on someone's face when they're like doing math in their head. I swear to God, like he looked at it and like kind of looked up and then like nodded and went, "Oh, okay, cool," and then like put it away. And so and I remember looking at that and thinking like at the time, "Oh, that was interesting," and then years later, kind of putting two and two together and just sort of thinking like, oh, "Okay, like that makes a lot more sense now."
Do you think Terry? Do you think? Oh.
Yeah. I don't think Terry was. I don't think Terry was knowingly in on anything. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't think that. I think that Rafiel is just. I think Rafiel maybe negotiated a decent amount that made it worth his while after he paid Joe. Like that's speculation on my part. I want to be very clear about that, but yeah.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. Yeah. I think so.
That's what he was figuring in his head when he looked at the check. He's like, "So I owe Joe this much, so I'm getting this much."
Yeah. He did the face of like, okay, not bad, like that. Like he did he did that face as like he was like looking at the check,
like fine wine, like he's drinking fine. There.
No, just
the
like
tannins just hit.
No, just like okay, when you're at a restaurant and you order a lot of food and you get the bill and it's not as bad as you think. It was that. It was like that kind of like recognition of like, just like, okay, you know, like, you know, so whether that factored in the gate, I'm not exactly sure. I mean, it could have been a lot of reasons for that, but you know.
But like I talked about,
I like that, Ed. Good call. I like that.
Like I talked about how Rafiel was kind of a big time manipulator. Who knows what he promised Joe or
what Joe got.
Made Joe believe certain things. Like that was Rafiel's game.
You know what, Jeff? I bet you he didn't give a price. I bet you he said, "Dude, it's going to be huge. You'll get a percentage. You do this. You did." You know what, Jeff Sherwood? You're right. You're 100% right. Which makes Ed's math equation thing kind of make sense as well. If he gives a price, he's going to negotiate, and he's going to get wrecked. But if he gives a percentage, it's like he's got his guaranteed bag. Wow.
Well, and also, I mean, again, but again, Wild West days and King of the Cage was hardly the only promotion that did this. But I mean, checks were cut at the end of the night based on, any bonus, but also gate and ticket sale bonus,
Dude,
So,
fake fights happened
yeah,
all
the time.
And
even in the UFC these days. So.
Absolutely.
Everywhere.
It oftentimes, like on these regional shows, which I'm going to include King of the Cage at the time, it's your biggest ticket seller, never even touched the GA, only took your prime location seats. And 2 days before, he goes, man, I think I broke my foot. Okay, so you need like a day and a half to get all of those seats back. So I have to sell them at the door? No.
Yeah.
I got somebody for you. That's what happens.
I do think it's worth noting, I don't think Rafiel happens in a scene other than the Southern California MMA scene at that time. I think King of the Cage was like the number two. Like, I mean, Terry would always say he was like the number two promotion right behind the UFC or right behind UFC and Pride. But like, I mean, in terms of like independent shows that weren't, UFC and Pride at the time, King of the Cage was up there for sure. And like, it was definitely like, they had a lot of like emerging talent at the time, and it was often like a place where people recently cut from the UFC could go and make. And the fact that it had proximity to the Japanese scene, I think I don't think that happens at Monty Cox shows. I don't think a Rafiel becomes Rafiel in like the Midwest.
No. Ed, to kind of layer your point also, if you look at like the early jiu-jitsu scene, like when if you lay out the United States, where's the greatest jiu-jitsu happening at in 1993? Well, guess what? It's Lions Den and the Gracie Academies and Joe Moreira. All of them are in California. All of them.
Yep.
You got nice weather year round. You've got a phenomenal athlete coming out of there. Look at professional sports. So just King of the Cage's location endeared itself to having incredible athletes in their first few fights.
Yep.
It's just, it's just luck of the draw.
Yeah,
I agree.
That definitely wouldn't happen at a Monty Cox show, because Monty Cox would have put Rafiel against one of his guys and they would have killed Rafiel.
Yeah. Rafiel would have had to pay to get into his fights.
Yeah.
So interesting. It's so interesting. And like the thing also in regards to this, it's Rafiel gets fired from Ed Combat. Like if you look at the timeline, I've got a pretty good timeline of events of like when things took place in his life. When you look at the timeline, he gets fired because 9/11 happens. He's hyped up on amphetamines or whatever, knocks out an article about the sand turning blood red. And within 24 hours, he's fired. And in Miguel Durante, to his credit, I don't think Miguel liked him, didn't like him, didn't really care for him. I guarantee Miguel's probably looking at the money that he's getting paid as compared to what Torre's getting paid, and that bothers him. That's the type of personality he has. But Miguel called him up and said, you really want me to publish this? Like, do you want to think about this for 24 hours? Nope. Double, triple down. Like Miguel, you can tell he's a good person by talking somebody out of doings that's going to completely terminate their relationship with these people, with somebody he doesn't really like that much. And now Torre dug in. So after that, this King of the Cage happens. And I think Ed, you kind of gave your assessment in regards to what was going on. My kind of theory was, I think the money, he really needed to pay a lot of bills. He knew he had a name. He can make some quick dollars, hoping to get away with it. But those slippery mats got in the way. Yeah, I think it was just like, holy shit, like I got the spend going out, but now I don't have the in coming in. I think that's what kind of forced his hand on it. It's just kind of like a bank robbery.
That's interesting. That's an interesting POV. I mean, I think like I don't disagree with it at all. I think I've thought a lot about what what this real shift was. And there, for me, I just noticed over time that it went from Rafael just like happy to be there, happy to participate, happy to be riding this wave that we all felt like we were on, versus him having to be at the front of it. If you watch, to me, the most revealing moment with him in that sort of shift was when he cornered somebody at Pride. I'm trying to remember who it
It
was.
would have been Mark Kerr or
Mark
Rico
Kerr.
Rodriguez.
Yeah, I think one of those guys. But and it kind of, if you like remember, it kind of came together quick. Like he wasn't supposed to, but he was around and he was asked and he did it. As he's walking down there, like you see from the top of that ramp to the time they get to the ring, like he's out there and he can kind of see it and kind of see the crowd. And then by the time he's halfway in that walk, he's got some swagger to like how he's walking. It changes in real time. His face like really shifts in real time from going from like, oh my God, how the hell am I here to like, yeah, of course I'm here. Like it just you can kind of see it.
It's brilliant. It's brilliant.
All in
Yeah,
that
he's leveling up. He's leveling
yeah,
up.
in his own mind. Yeah. In real time.
Yeah. This is the show. I'm on. Yeah. Jeff, you had a real interesting interview with him in Pride.
Yeah.
Would you mind telling our audience about it?
Yeah, that was and he was with Eddie Bravo at the time, and he came up to me and Josh Gross and he said, "Hey, I'd like to interview you guys." And I was like, What do you want to interview me for?" Like I I don't do I interview people. I don't get interviewed. And he's like, "Come on, bro." He put on that smooth talk, and I was like, "All right, let's go for it." And I had no idea what he was going to ask me. And the first question out of the chute was, "So, would you rather suck a guy off or take it up the ass?" And
How
at
high? How
that,
high was he? How high was he?
yeah.
Meth does weird things to you.
How high was he?
But you know what's
Oh my
crazy is,
God.
so he had these questions written out, and they were all like this.
Yeah,
And
because he might forget them. You know what I mean? It's just they're so.
he wasn't just asking me that question. After he interviewed me, he went and asked Boz Rutan the same questions.
Ken Shamrock too.
Yeah.
So comfortable. So comfortable.
And once he asked me that question, Josh Gross was standing next to me. Josh Gross just turned around and walked
Yeah,
away.
he ain't gonna do that.
And I was like, okay, is this a joke? Like, okay, ha ha ha, whatever. And then
Where's the real one? Yeah.
the next questions were kind of down the same road, and I was just like, yeah, no, this is over, you know. So, but yeah, I mean, he was asking Alistair Overeem questions like this, and everyone, and he thought it was so funny. And I was just like, what
You
is,
know what it is? This is him hanging out with Rogan, hanging out with Eddie Bravo, going, yeah, maybe I should try to give this stand-up thing a shot. Here, let me audition for you.
maybe something? It was just
100%.
weird. After that,
100%.
after that moment, I never really talked to him again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just like, yeah, I'm done with this. I don't know what it is or whatever, but I don't need to waste my time entertaining whatever we had, anymore.
And it's on video. So what are you gonna do with this
Yeah.
video?
Right.
Like you're putting me, like you're dunking
Yeah.
on me like that.
And yeah, I mean, like I didn't even know what to say. Like, I mean,
No,
and thinking it's a joke, and you know, what are you going to do with this? Like you say, and it's not funny.
no,
It's stupid.
Stupid.
So
I
yeah,
remember the Gonzo interview portion used to be just like the end of like a normal interview, and like it's like there'd be like this much or this much real estate of regular interview, and then like a little thing at the end, and then by the time he started like Fight Fan News or whatever the hell it was, that just was the interview. Like he was only doing that, and it's
Mhm.
just like I'm like, what are we even doing? And he interviewed me for it like in the early days of Fight Fan News, like right, and that was right when my film was coming out. So I did the interview. He didn't ask me those, thankfully, and I never had to like I never had to go through that, but like I remember just like the last few times I checked the website, it was literally just nothing but that shit. And I'm just like, what are we even doing right now? Like and then that combined with like the whole Club Rubber thing was like supremely weird to me, just that whole scene.
Would you mind
And
explaining that?
yeah, so I forget his name, who was the promoter, but it was in Orange County. It was a whole, it wasn't a physical building.
Huntington.
Huntington, yeah, Jeff Huntington, yeah, it was in Huntington Beach, yeah,
Yeah.
and it
Yeah,
was
his name was Huntington.
Yeah.
that's
his last
Ryan
name's
Ryan
Huntington.
Ryan Huntington, or something like that. I feel like there was a Ryan.
He was a DJ at Club Rubber.
Yeah, I met him in Holland when I was filming. Bobby Rozak and I were filming something in Holland back in 2002. I ended up meeting him over there. But like this was like this rotating club scene in Orange County, and like and Rafiel and a lot of people would go there like once or twice, and Rafiel was just there all the time, and it was just a lot of like themed dance club nights, obviously a lot of drinking,
Ecstasy.
obviously a lot of
Yeah.
drugs.
Yeah.
And I just remember, and I had already been to college, and so I was like, all right, I'm good. Yeah, I'm trying to like launch my filmmaking career, and I'm like, I don't need to. I'm good. I don't need to take part in that. And it felt like hardcore midlife crisis shit from him, and I just like I remember seeing that going, I'm glad he's having fun, and I remember that was it. And I remember Eddie Millis telling me that he was going to open a jiu-jitsu school near him and that they had talked it out and it was cool. And I'm like, glad he's still involved in the sport at this point because he had stopped writing. Like his writing really just kind of fell off. And I remember just like that whole scene is when I just stopped talking to him just because like that just seemed to be his focus, just this partying and sort of gallivanting
Yeah.
lifestyle that I just really wasn't with at the time.
I wonder if that's where he met
Yeah, it is.
the beautiful woman who's also a victim because her husband, was unalived by him, and she had nothing to do with it at all on any level.
No comments.
Well, I mean, according to the law, she's innocent. That laugh is not satirical. It was more anger of the situation of what took place against her. Jeff, let's talk about the murder. Did it surprise you based on like you're kind of watching them unravel anyway, or are you not even paying attention?
I wasn't even really paying attention to things that he did or said or anything at that point.
Okay.
I don't know if I was surprised.
Did you write an article about it?
Josh Gross wrote many things about it. And that's when I think when Raphael says that I was upset with him, I think that's when it changed because what's crazy is all through the years of Sherdog, even though after a while I didn't basically write anything, but everything that was on that website came from me.
Yeah.
So I got blamed for everything. I mean, I almost got killed at Pride by Kevin Randleman for something that somebody posted on our forum.
Okay, he'll do it.
So, and luckily Mark Coleman and Boz Rutan and Quentin Jackson saved me, and Boz Rutan and Kevin Randleman almost fought in the hallway at the Tokyo Hilton because he was screaming at me, and I thought
Man.
at the time he was going to beat my ass. So
Wow.
for something that somebody posted on our forum, so yeah, that's uh, surprised. I don't know. I don't want to sound like selfish or like I don't care about anything, but at the time, I don't think I put enough thought into it to really try and
You,
figure out.
you know what? You had a lot of moving parts with your website, and that's what was paying the bills. So that's what you cared about, which is smart. You tended to the garden you could touch.
Yeah. And I let Josh Gross, with the journalist background,
Run ham
dive
on it.
into it, right, what he wants.
Just those articles don't exist anymore.
That's crazy
Yeah, they're not on Sherdog anymore.
because I believe when I
I went
think
there. I mean, I went there for research, dude.
I
They're
think
not there.
Ed actually interviewed Josh Gross about it or something. And I remember Josh, I think it was Ed,
Yeah.
and he had his story pulled up on his laptop right there.
I found it on the Wayback Machine. So yeah, when I did Fighting in Plain Sight, I had to get a just like you, Mike. I had to get a lot of stuff from the Wayback Machine, and I
Yeah.
was able to find in Wayback like yeah, because it was off the article. And so on Wayback, I was able to find and screen grab enough
The
stuff
Josh, were you able to
bring it
screen
up.
grab the Josh Gross articles?
Yeah,
Man, dude, I gotta get better at it then.
yeah.
Okay,
Well,
I
and
couldn't
this
find
was
it.
2013, so I don't know like where.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know where it is now, but
I
yeah.
went to Sherdog. I figured it would still be on Sherdog.
No, there's quite. I mean, I remember even just a lot of the ADCC stuff. I had to go back and do Wayback Machine on even the Fight Fan News. Like I was able to get a couple of things off Fight Fan News
Uh,
from Wayback, but not as much as I remembered. So
Larry Landless, were you surprised?
No. with Rafael, with what happened with Jeff and that situation, are you talking about?
With the murder.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. Yes, very surprised. I when it all got tied in, and I'm hearing about it, and we were looking for details. We go to the websites, and all like on Sherdog, there'd be the forums, and people were talking about it. But that's just like Facebook now. You don't get actual facts, but you get our opinions, and it kind of muddied up the situation. So when you talk to people that knew Eddie Bravo or Gerald Strebendt or something like that, I felt like you got closer to the information. Yeah, I was very surprised. I was very surprised at all of it.
So
I have no knowledge of it. I just heard, the basics of the story, and then of course the results.
So when he was arrested 2 years later, he had methamphetamine on him, so he was partying hard. So like that rubber room and that lifestyle, he dipped his toe in that water and he kept swimming.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I noticed, he had a leather jacket on that first time I met him at King of the Cage, which is no big deal. But then when I eventually saw him with the leather pants and the chains and kind of all that stuff, and I think he kind of did his eyebrows too and stuff, that's when I saw he was getting a little Hollywood with this. And
Oh yeah. I could see
it
him
seemed like
sporting some nipple jewelry as well at some point.
I wouldn't go
I
that
could
far
see,
to say,
I
but
could see
I
it.
think he
I
had
could
a
see it.
mesh. I think he had a mesh shirt, if I'm not mistaken. Like
Yeah.
a mesh shirt, looked like a fishing net, and then it was, yeah, I saw a change in him, but he was always nice to me. I mean, he always nice to me. I actually competed in that Chris Brennan in-house tournament. I actually wrestled in it, and Chris Brennan had a in-house tournament. Terry was there, and we, when I was there, when I saw Rafiel, I can't remember if it was for the grand opening or it's for the tournament, because I only went there like 2-3 times. But
Do you know how we've all kind of mutually agreed the guy has got like a predatory sixth sense and understanding of kind of where to move pieces, as well as kind of how to just buffalo other people and in padding a story. The guy works out with Boss Rutan. He works out with Mark Kerr, but in that same building is Marco Huas. Doesn't get on a mat with Huas, wants no real communication with Huas, doesn't try to like, hey, he's Brazilian, he's kind of in that scene, zero contact with Huas. Now you mentioned Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock is another guy. Like Huas is like the same type as like a Shamrock. Ken Shamrock gets on a mat with him. Ken Shamrock's telling everybody the truth about him. One time, that's it. You're not getting 2 or 3 times to kind of catch up. Ken is, I think he kind of understood like the playing fields he could kick the ball in, and then the playing fields he should probably just stay away from. brilliant, absolutely brilliant. Like if you think about it, it's brilliant.
He couldn't fake the Portuguese with Marco Huas, and Marco Huas never got great at English, so that's a reason to stay away.
But again, like he always again, it's always just the nuance to the lie, which like yes, my father's from Brazil, but I was raised mostly in wherever it was, and my father
Texas, I think he said,
yeah, and so again, like the moment it was like stepping on something slippery. It's like it had anytime scrutiny was applied, it was just enough to slip out from underneath your foot, and you'd be like, oh, okay, cool. That's
of course, you know this.
Yeah,
duh.
Yeah.
But even going back to those days, like, I talked about media and all of us being new and at this, I think it happened more back then to where what happened in the gym kind of stayed in the gym.
Yes.
Like Bas Rutten, like respected that. Like if he beat the shit out of you, because I've seen a lot of people get the shit kicked out of them in a gym by somebody, but you never hear
speak on it.
a word about it. And I think
yeah,
the true mixed martial artists like a Bas Rutten, people like that, whatever happens in the gym, they're not going to tell anyone.
Okay.
That's kind of a punk move.
Yeah, and so like and that's that sort of like mutual respect and understanding is like again another vector with which he was able to get away with it. I mean, dude, in filming Life in the Cage and some of the follow-up stuff, I filmed a lot of gym sessions. I filmed a lot of surprising like matchups, and like I remember even just then having conversations with the guys and being like, all right, I won't. Is there anything you don't want me to show training wise that just out of respect, right? And so and because of that, a Rafael could go in, get mud stomped by whomever, and yet the real results of it never actually make their way out to the larger public.
Right.
Though, he would write these nice little articles about the lesson and humility in regards to going into the gym. And it's so fascinating. Like, it's like the more of like the onion you peel back, you guys got to read the transcripts, the court transcripts.
I have them right over there.
Okay.
I've read them all.
Okay. So I had a producer call me up, and it's just pre-reading any transcripts. And like I said, we've all got a little bit of a criminal mind here, but we just make good choices. It's just, we got a good sense of BS or openings or maybe how to achieve a goal, but maybe not really following the rules as they're supposed to be laid out. And, those court transcripts, within 3 questions, I'm like, to me, it seems like somebody else paid for his attorney.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh my God, you figured it out. I'm like, it's like, I'm not trying to do a plot twist here because it's not on Netflix or Amazon or Hulu, but there's no way he paid for his attorney. Somebody hiding something or wanting to get away with it probably cut the checks.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like,
it's fascinating. Like it's
yeah. A lot of the people who are on cross, because like a lot of people were on cross examination. Eddie Bravo, Joe Rogan, like a lot of them like had to testify. Gerald, obviously, but I mean, even like criminologists and like former students of his, like were all questioned. And in cross, like that is an attorney who knows their stuff and is doing their damnedest. The problem is the moment Rafael takes a stand and has to face like the prosecutor, like all of his stuff just crumbles.
Wait,
like once he's like bound.
Hold on. Let me just interject here. Ed, you're an intelligent guy. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, okay. How many criminal defense attorneys tell their client, even when they're innocent, to go and take the stand?
Yeah, it's
how many?
I have no idea.
I know the percentage. Less than 2%.
Yeah. I know it's a huge gamble to do so. And a lot of times it doesn't work out the way people want it to. And Rafael, it definitely did not.
Less than 2% take the stand.
Yeah.
Did you count how many objections? You did. See,
I didn't count, but I know there was a lot. There was a lot of objections.
Objections on the one side.
Yeah.
But nowhere near as many on his side. Like objections are supposed to be like fouls in basketball. Like you get one side like in the beginning of the game, the other side kind of catches up at the end of the game. And at the end, you kind of see, oh, yeah, it's called down the middle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Interesting. That's all I'm saying.
Also,
Jeff.
I think that at that time in Rafiel's life, he was starting to believe his own hype. I think he thought,
100%.
we see these pro athletes, they feel like they can do whatever they want. And I think Rafiel really felt he was there,
Yeah.
that he can go on there and say what he wants to say, and nothing was going to happen to him because he's Rafiel Torre.
He could walk into the rooms with the people that could do that and fake the funk
Yep.
to hang out with them. Yeah.
The ironic thing to me is that like in those early lessons in humility articles, like he actually has like capacity for real humility. Like he's very self-effacing when he writes in that perspective, and he's very like complimentary, and he's not like it's actually not about himself. He's using himself as a lens to like capture a new angle of his subject, and it's like at its best, those articles really do like to have a sense of wonder and awe to them, right? And like it treated all the subjects as like these mythological creatures. The problem is he lost that humility. I would argue had he not lost that humility, and like I think it begins largely with the Joe fight. And I think like once he starts believing his own hype is when I think a lot of stuff really started unraveling for him.
So in the interview, I mean, I was conflicted because in the interview, one, it took me 3 years to get.
Yeah.
Yeah. It took a while. Two, I'm battling not being able to record while watching him. Three, I got to play this fucking video that doesn't sync up with any of the questions, and it's not going to because it's 2 different sessions. I get 12 minutes with him that gets interrupted every 6 minutes. So like when I got to ask him a hard question, I got to line it up. You just don't come with, hey, dude, how's your divorce? Even though we don't know each other. That's just not how it goes. Like you got pad, get him comfortable.
Right.
Here it goes.
Wait, is he getting divorced from the gal he married?
No.
Oh, okay.
But it's just like when you go with a hard question, you don't start there.
Yeah.
And so I just let him go. I let him go, knowing I got to do roundtables after this. Otherwise,
right.
There's going to be some issues. And 300th episode, I'm emotional about that alone. And 2, it's just like, 1, he's actually a really like nice guy. Like when you hear like the back and forth, you're like, fuck, man.
Con men are usually pretty nice.
Yeah.
They have to be. I mean,
they don't take your money. They get you to give it to them.
Dude.
Yeah.
Jeff Sherwood. He's a magician in jail.
Yes, I heard about this.
Released a book.
Dude, he's a...
That I didn't hear.
Dude,
he came out with a book.
Ed, you got to listen to the interview.
Yeah, I do. I've been putting it off. I'll be honest. I've been putting it off. I've been very conflicted about whether or not to listen.
Good interview.
Yeah, I'll listen to it.
He's a shithouse magician. Think about that. Think about that.
The sleight of hand. The sleight of hand. That's what he did to us for a long time.
So there is another documentary being made about him right now that I've been in contact with the filmmakers on.
Was it Jerry?
Yeah, Jerry.
And, that's my guy.
Yeah. So like I know that he was the first one who told me about the magician thing, and I'm like, I remember I was outside on the phone when I heard that. I just couldn't stop laughing. I'm like, you know what? Bless him.
I'm in.
As my grandma would say.
Yeah.
I totally get it. Makes sense. Honestly, like I kind of respect like that of all the things. Sleight of hand just
so everybody knows, and decks of cards are now legal to be in the jail system, but it's probably within the last decade they've allowed them because gambling, fighting, all of it. I shouldn't say all of it. Sometimes it stems from card games. So what they would do is every day you get a carton of milk, and they would cut the sides of the milk cartons out, and they would make their own playing cards. So if you want to talk about where he started as a magician, it was with milk carton trading, like playing cards. Like I've seen it.
Wow.
Fuck, unbelievable. They gotta do a documentary on this. Don't you think?
I've been trying. Like I honestly, it's been in the back burner for me for the better part of 10 years, and I I was trying to make a feature-length version of Fighting in Plain Sight, and when Gerald went sort of through his stuff, I kind of like took a step back because there were things in my career and other avenues and other projects I was working on that like took precedent. Also, like I had become a little bit, I had gotten a little bit of writer's block on like my POV on it. And so I just kind of took a step back, and then, COVID lockdown happened, and I've been thinking about it lately, especially when Jared contacted me again. I'm gonna take a wait and see approach.
Okay.
I
So-
don't know. It's a great story.
So Gerald Strebendt, Gerald Strebendt,
Yeah.
if you've ever seen the movie Reservoir Dogs, he's one of the guys at the table in the beginning. Like he's getting a color of some sort. Like you're Mr. This color.
It's
He
great.
is.
I mean, he's my former teammate at 10th Planet. Like I was very close with Gerald. I was helping him train for his fight with Josh at the UFC. And so like and we were friends and everything. And then like everything, I was supposed to interview him, and then the first incident in 2014 happened that tied him up for the next few years. So
Okay, so Ed, obviously you're a real busy guy, Jeff and Larry. So we did a roundtable with Strebendt on it. And I kind of started with, fuck it, let's just rip the Band-Aid off. Let's not talk about Rafiel. Let's talk about you guys and things I know about you. And with Strebendt, it was the guy from Girls Gone Wild. He got robbed and blackmailed.
Yeah.
And it was Gerald's roommate that did it. And Gerald saw the Picasso painting that hasn't been turned up, that's now on the black market. And Gerald, I mean, so it's just like the shit in Strebendt's life. You can't even, like, you just think, come on, dude, you're bullshitting now. And now make him die in the end. Oh, the guy on the side of the road does do that? Oh, okay. All right. It's just, his life is unbelievable. And the thing is, the things that you see online that they're saying he's guilty of, it's been proven false since then.
Yeah.
It's fucking wild. That's your part two.
All it takes now, it seems like all it takes now is an accusation. And once it's on the internet, it's like, how do you shake it?
Yeah.
And even if you do shake it in the end, people still know you for that.
No, with the retractions this big,
Right.
Yeah.
And you got 50 pages of accusation.
Yeah.
Ed?
I was going to say, I confess not knowing all the. I'll on my own time. I'll do my own. Like I'll figure out.
Just
like,
listen to the interview
happened.
I did with him.
I'll listen to the interview and
Yeah.
because admittedly, I'm not as up to date on Gerald's situation. I owe it to him to probably do a little bit more listening.
Yeah, Gerald's all right
in
in my book, dude. Gerald's
Yeah.
100% all right in my book. Yeah.
Good time.
Yeah, it's wild. That's wild. How do you think you guys kind of know the type of human being he is? Jeff, you work in a penal institution. Do you think he gets out? He's got LWOP, life without parole. He got LWOP'd.
I don't want to get political really, but with the great governor of California, which is one reason why I now live in Oklahoma, the amount of LWOP women at the prison that I worked at that got out during COVID was remarkable.
Wow.
I worked at a men's prison for a while, and I worked with 4 murderers that were in for life. 3 of them are out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh
So
my God.
LWOP women, by the way, 80% of it involves babies. That's all I'm telling you. Yeah. I mean, that's, you want to look up charges for women with LWOP. Oh my God, dude. No. It'll fuck your whole day up.
Yeah, the other 20% are
Killed their boyfriends.
Boyfriends or husbands.
Yeah. They get beat on a little too much, and then they had enough. They off them, and more often than not, I have like sympathy for them.
They shake them.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah, they shake them, and yeah, I've heard of that.
Dude, it's like it's hard. It's hard to work in a prison and like keep your sanity because of what you're surrounded with. Like I worked in the jail for over a decade, and mushrooms really helped me out. Like I don't drink. I'm sober. I don't smoke weed. I smoked weed twice in high school. I haven't had a sip of alcohol since I was 18. Mushrooms gave me my life back. Yeah.
Well, when you work in a prison, you're a prisoner as well, but
Yeah.
you get to go home at the end of the night.
Yeah. You bring that bullshit home with you.
Yeah.
And Doty, let's wrap this up.
Sure.
What are you doing? Final
what
statements?
Am I doing? No, I mean, my career has largely been in television since then, and now I've been really working in the content around gaming space for like the last 10 years or so. And I'm at an agency right now, so I'm working on a lot of cool stuff I can't talk about.
Cool.
But I'm still
in the game.
Martial artist until the day I die. I'm teaching kids jiu-jitsu a couple times a week just for fun, just stay connected.
Where at?
House Champions of Van Nuys.
Okay.
So teaching kids just out there. One of my first tournaments I ever competed in was at House Champions, so I've known those guys for a long time. But yeah, no, just still out there, still rocking it, and still advising. I do a lot of like mentoring for like younger filmmakers in their career now. So anytime like people are trying to get into the documentary space, there's so much documentary content out there now. So I was trying to help and kind of be a helpful hand when I can. So
Jeff Sherwood.
Well, I relocated to Oklahoma, which I mentioned a bit earlier. It's after spending 22 plus years dealing with MMA and going to shows and flying all over the world. The state that MMA is in right now, the UFC, it just doesn't really appeal to me. I actually watched the first UFC main card this weekend, probably for the first time in about 2 years.
Oh, wow.
It's I don't know. It's
not what it was.
It's not what it was. I mean, and we kind of come full circle here. When Ed talked about it, Larry talked about it. We were kind of a family. I mean, MMA was on the internet. All those old G people feel like all these new people have come in and overtaken taking our sport away.
But it's point fighting. It's not like it's like I think they need to make some adjustments with rules and make harsher consequences for maybe an error in a misstep. And I know that's probably not a popular thing to say with all the brain stuff going on, but I mean, I don't want to watch 7 decisions. I hate to say it like that. Like I don't know.
I just don't want to watch
But UFC. I do watch it. I do watch it. But
I don't want to watch a UFC every weekend.
Right. I mean, that's part of
We
it.
used to look forward to them. Now they're all the time.
There would be 3-4 a year, and you could build it up, and you'd be like, "Oh man, I can't wait till December when this fight's happening." And now it's like, okay, there's so many fights scheduled, there's so many things going on, and you just can't get excited for it like you were before. There's UFCs now, as Ed brought up, that are far below some of the King of the Cage cards back in the day.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Sure.
And I don't want to watch that. And I don't want to pay $100 every 3 weeks for a pay-per-view.
So Jeff, UFC was just here in Chicago, which is where I'm based. The last row of the United Center was $850, not including service fees. Parking was $150. Like how the you know what I mean? Like how am I supposed to take my just one person with me?
Right. And I love the UFC, and I've been to so many UFCs cage side. And I've sat in the stands. I mean, Dana White banned us 3 or 4 times, and we had to buy tickets to every UFC to actually go to the show and watch it because we were banned from media. So, I mean, we spent tons and tons of money on UFC tickets, and that was 15 years ago. And now I see the prices, and my wife wants to go. My wife is into the big fights, and she's like, we should go to a UFC. And I was like, I am not going to pay those prices to sit up in the nosebleeds and watch the screen.
And, you know, because you got a little bit of notoriety, your entire section, somebody in your section is going to go, that's Sherdog. The fuck is he doing in the 300s?
I don't know about
311.
that.
What's he doing up here?
I don't know about that. I don't know about that anymore. I mean, the sport moves on so quickly.
Yeah, it does. Larry Landless, what about yourself?
Yes, sir.
Let's close
Right
this out
now,
with what you got going.
I retired from the school district, but I still coach wrestling. And I work one day a week at a drug rehabilitation residential care place in LA. I keep busy with that stuff. You know, I'm going to continue with, at this point, probably judging, but on the amateur level. Just keep it simple. I'm going to try and uncomplicate my life as much as possible and focus on my health. I have cancer, so I have to keep an eye on that and keep it under control, you know. So
it's good.
It's
good.
Judging
nice.
something you can
nice.
do till you're 80, Larry. I think that's a great move.
Yeah, and I just want to do the amateur shows because it just got too competitive to, you know, for the more pro shows. The amateur shows, there seems to be a lot in my area, Southern California area, and they're close by, and I could still make it to work the next day, you know, on a Sunday. So that's my plan at this point. But I gotta just take care of a few things with my health and stuff.
And the good news is, Larry, and this is no disrespect to you, but you don't even have to be a good judge these days.
No.
It's definitely on a curve these days.
You know, here's the thing. Everyone. It's an opinion, and you know, like I try to tell people when they go to herb school or stuff. I say, hey, you got one view. The people on the TV, they got several views.
Yeah.
And based on your one view, you've got to make a decision that's an intelligent decision based upon the criteria that's given to you. You can't bring in your own criteria and say, well, the guy was trying very hard. That's not a criteria. There's a criteria. And if you follow the criteria, it shouldn't be that difficult. But it's still going to be opinionated, especially with close fights.
The last comment I want to make is Larry brought it up earlier about Rafiel, and one of the points he made was Rafiel was media. He was always nice to me. I wasn't always nice, and I'm sure Larry could attest where after King of the Cages, after IFCs, I would sit down with the referees and they asked for it, so I was brutally honest. I've had many dinners with Larry after a UFC show, after a King of the Cage show, where I would give them my opinion.
Mhm.
Josh Rosenthal, I would blast because when he first started, he was horrible. And I would let him know that he was horrible. Herb Dean, I would tell him everything that I thought, and who was I at the time, but everything that I thought that he did wrong. And all three of those guys totally listened to me and took it in and never got mad at me. And I was a dick sometimes.
No.
So I'll say that.
I don't think so. I think you're very professional, and I appreciate all your input. And you were never really rude with me. You know, there's been people that have, you know, that they think they have to take that rude position, and you've never been like that with me, Jeff. You've always been pretty cool, and you know, your opinion's always been valid, and you know, it's food for thought. You know, we have different insights, and you know, like I told Jeff this when we talked a couple of days ago. Whenever the fights would happen, at the end of the fight, I'd always hold up the hand of the winner, and then I'd look for the reporters so they get their pictures.
Mm-hmm.
I'd kind of circle the fighters, and they, you know, that's not done anymore. But I thought that was important because that's their one opportunity, and you know, for Sherdog to get a picture of you, or for, you know, the Full Contact Fighter and Grappling Magazine and whoever else was there, I made sure they got their shots. They're kind of just, you got one shot and that's it, and if you don't get it, you don't get it. You know, I wanted to make sure that, you know, that's how my way of promoting the fights at the time.
Yeah.
And without any, you know, my 3 fights I had with King of the Cage, I put Sherdog on my shorts. I don't know if you remember that, Jeff.
Back in the day, a lot of people did that.
Yeah, you took a picture of it. You had a close-up of it.
Yeah.
And, I did that. Because I thought highly of you guys. Maybe not the forums. Maybe not the forums, but you, Josh, Savage, and Loretta, and I really appreciate you guys. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, just to make you feel better, I would go post in my own forums and literally get blasted by MMA fans talking shit to me.
I remember that.
You're on my forum talking shit about me. So yeah.
Yeah. That doesn't make me feel better, but yeah.
Yeah. You sure you want to take us out of here?
At the end of the day, I think Rafiel Torre, he was a con man that got away as long as he did because it was a world full of con men. Sherdog wasn't a reporter. He was faking it till he made it, and he made it. Ed wasn't a filmmaker. He was faking it till he made it, and he made it. So he was kind of swimming in those worlds, and that's how he got away with it as long as he did. But thank you guys for both being on. Sherdog, I was not joking when I said earlier, your site has eaten thousands of hours out of my life.
Yeah, Jeff, your Fight Finder, your database is brilliant. It's brilliant, bro.
I know. I keep saying one more thing. So when my partner, who was the student at Mississippi University, he came to me one day and he said, "This is what I want to do." The Fight Finder wasn't even my idea. This is my Dana White moment when they came to Dana White and said, "Hey, let's make this Ultimate Fighter." And Dana White thought it was the worst fucking idea in the world. So, and now he makes it sound like it was all his idea. But the Fight Finder was my partner's idea. He said, "I want to build this giant database and we put every fight into that. And people will go and spend hours in it." And I said, "You're crazy. That's way too much work. That's a stupid idea." He said, "Well, I'm going to do it anyways." So it was all him. Wow. That Fight Finder was not me. And we, obviously we had analytics and everything. And at one time, I remember like the average time spent on the Fight Finder was like an hour and 12 minutes.
Dude, I was way above that. I'm still there. I'm still doing that. So, Jeff, I think we're going to do a little, we're going to revisit a conversation with just yourself and, your contributions to mixed martial arts. But gentlemen, Ed, absolute pleasure, man. I know we've never spoken before.
Yeah, no, it's a pleasure to meet you, man.
Sincerely appreciate you coming on here. Larry, you as well. Take care, guys.
Thanks, guys.